Hi, I'm Jon Decker, PGA instructor and author of the book, Golf is My Life, Glorifying God Through the Game. Today I want to work with you on making the proper adjustments in your full swing and in your short game with wind direction. And I want to kind of give you some tips that I see when my time out on the PGA Tour as an instructor. I noticed that a lot of players, when they were standing there, they would actually hold their club like this. They might hold it like this. They might hold it like this. Basically what they were doing is they were using their club almost like a clock. So if this would be 6 o'clock, if I was pointing the club directly at the camera. So for this illustration, we're going to have our target here. I'm going at 6 o'clock, and then we're going to have the wind at 6 o'clock as well. So anytime you have the clubs parallel to each other, you are either downwind or you're hitting into the wind. So if you have the club in this position right here, so if I'm going into the wind, obviously I'm going to take more club. If I'm going downwind, obviously I'm going to take less club. But when golf gets really tricky is when the wind goes at a right angle to the target line. The most severe shot that you're going to have with wind is when the wind is going to be going from either, from my perspective, would be 9 o'clock to 3 o'clock or from 3 o'clock to 9 o'clock. So anytime the wind is going at a right angle to my target line, I'm going to have to make an adjustment. Now, I'm going to have to sometimes adjust with my club selection and my direction. And this is where it gets kind of tricky on the golf course, because a lot of times students do not adjust for crosswinds. And remember, crosswinds are not always going to be at a perfect right angle. Sometimes your crosswind might be this way, where the club is coming from, maybe the wind is coming from 2 to say, let's say 7 or 8 o'clock. Or it might be coming from 10 or 11 down to 4 or 5. So a lot of times when I'm watching the tour players, now they're not using 2 clubs, they would only take 1. What they'll do is they'll actually adjust and they'll feel the wind and they'll put their club out here and then they will adjust their alignment. So let's just say, for example, that the wind is blowing this way. This is going to be somewhere around 8 o'clock to about 2 o'clock. I know that when I hit my shot perfectly straight, let's say I hit a perfectly straight shot, the ball is going to tend to go to the right. Now, what the average golfer needs to do is you need to play the wind. Do not try to go against the wind. So, for example, if the wind is blowing in this direction, then my alignment would be more over here. If the wind is going in this direction, my alignment would be more over here. So you adjust your alignment with the wind. Now, a lot of times the tour player, if the wind is barely blowing, and let's say the wind is blowing from left to right in this position right here, they might hit a draw, or if it was going this way, they might hit a fade against the wind to straighten it out. But for the average golfer, this is going to be too difficult. So what you want to try to do is look at the wind and then focus on your ball flight and how the wind is going to affect it. So if I have a situation where the wind is blowing, let's say from 4 o'clock to 10 o'clock or 11 o'clock in this direction right here, and I'm a slicer, that wind is actually going to straighten out my slice. So I don't need to allow for as much of a slice. But if I hit a hook, the ball is really going to hook. So I would aim more to the right in that situation. The other thing that I do when I'm on the driving range is, especially if there's a prevailing wind, if you're out there on the driving range and the wind is blowing, so let's say in the summer months it's blowing out of the south, or in the winter or in the fall it's blowing out of the north, and it's a prevailing wind. So if the wind is blowing in this direction, let's say it's in our face and it's coming from, say, 11 o'clock down to about 5 o'clock, then what I'll do is, in my mind, is I'll be thinking to myself, all right, on the first hole, it goes into the wind, or the second hole goes this way, and I'm going to have to play a crosswind. The third hole might be downwind. I'm going ahead and looking how the wind is blowing, thinking about the golf course I'm going to be playing, and going ahead and preparing myself. So sometimes on the driving range, I might know that, I might be on a par 3 and it might be playing dead into the wind that day. I'm going to prepare, instead of practicing with a 7-iron, I might practice with a 6-iron or a 5-iron. So just thinking ahead a lot of times will help you on the golf course. Again, the wind can change, and when it begins very difficult is when you play a golf course like Augusta, where there's a lot of low areas and a lot of high areas, and the wind will start swirling. Now, if the wind is swirling, you can't prepare for that on the driving range. You have to take each shot in each situation. But start paying attention to the wind. Start adjusting your club selection, and then start adjusting your alignment when you play out there on the golf course and you're playing in the winds. If you learn to do this, you're going to play smarter, and you're definitely going to improve your game.